And this next story is actually really interesting. As you know, one of my favorite Disney stories ever is Oswald the Rabbit. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was basically a precursor, a very early precursor to what eventually would be Mickey Mouse. And it was an early sketch, but somewhere many years ago, Disney had lost the rights to the character through some sort of rights lapsing deal. And they actually traded Oswald the Lucky Rabbit for a real life person to get the rights back. It was a sports anchor. They basically traded a sports anchor to another network in exchange for Oswald the Rabbit. It was a wild thing that happened. It's a crazy story. If you don't know that story, please look it up. It's wild. It's so much fun. But
that's the movie.
That should be the movie. Yes. Yes.
Imagine watching that movie from the perspective of Oswald.
It'd be so crazy. It'd be so crazy. But getting a little ahead of ourselves here, there will be a new Oswald the Lucky Rabbit TV series from Jon Favreau, co-creator of The Mandalorian, director of the Jungle Book remake, the Lion King remake, the original Iron Man director, Zathura. Remember Zathura? Anyway, prolific.
Happy Hogan in the MCU.
Correct. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is getting a TV series from Jon Favreau. It will be animation, live-action hybrid like Who Framed Roger Rabbit in that regard. And Favreau is as we mentioned, a Disney staple with all the stuff he's worked on. This comes to us from Deadline. What's funny is this comes off the heels of them saying they're no longer going to be doing long-form animation for Disney+, but live-action hybrids on the table. And what fascinates me is that they haven't touched this character for a long time. And they're pretty protective of their older IPs. Like, you don't see a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff anymore. You don't see a lot of Goofy, Donald stuff, unless it's like DuckTales. You don't really see a whole lot of it. Excellent. We're demonetized. But, I just think it's fascinating that they're now doing this, because I think this is a precursor to eventually getting more characters like Mickey, Goofy, like the big players in the Disney catalog. And I thought this was really interesting. And I find it fascinating that Jon Favreau is also doing it and committing to outside of Star Wars projects, which we haven't seen him do in a long time, which goes to show he's happy at Disney, but maybe he's not going to be doing new seasons of any Star Wars stuff. So, what were your thoughts on this, and do you think this is ultimately a good idea?
I mean, here's the interesting thing about it, right? So I always liked Oswald as well. And I swear to God, it's a Mandela effect for me. I always thought it was Oswald the Unlucky Rabbit.
Really?
And yeah, I always wore like the Oswald pin when I went to Disney. Like, I loved the character of Oswald. And I swear to God, for the longest time, I just thought it was the Unlucky Rabbit. And I was like, man, because then they had like a little resurgence in merch like a few years ago, because it was like dead air for so long on it, right? And I was just like, oh, like, why'd they rebrand him to the Lucky Rabbit? Like, he was always the Unlucky Rabbit. And someone was just like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, it's Oswald the Unlucky Rabbit. And they're like, no, it's Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. There's no trace of any of this anywhere that at any point, right? So I don't know where I got that from or where I made that up.
I'm gonna clip this, and I'm gonna see if this Mandela effect has been shared by anyone else.
Has anyone else thought it was the Unlucky Rabbit? I hope that I hope that there is just like one episode of like an animated cartoon short where it's like Oswald's Unlucky Day, and I ran with that,
and it just stuck with you.
I was like, this is what it is. I think it's very interesting that this is coming off the heels of the, like you said, the animation long form content, but hybrids on the table, because we saw how well Chippendale Rescues Rangers went.
Yeah, and
thank you.
On the rival side, they canceled Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an interesting trend, right? I think it's a great soft launch into restoring those IPs, right? Like, I've been saying for years, how is there not a Kingdom Hearts project, right? How is there not, like, I grew up with like the Three Mouseketeers and like all these like Mickey's House of Mouse and then House of Villains for the Halloween special, right? Mickey's just been sitting there chilling, doing nothing. I would love for like a new generation to have those same cartoons with the love that I've had for them, But I mean, listen, Jon Favreau's been a staple at Disney for so long now. I think it makes sense that he's the one that would be shepherding this, and he's someone that's not afraid to push boundaries. Not that like live action animation is a boundary. It's something we've seen going all the way back. I mean, for so long, right?
Mhm.
But I think if you're unsure about something, I think Jon Favreau is someone who always outputs safe, consistent results, and
Yeah.
so I think he's an excellent choice to try to reintroduce this character to people.
And I think it's important to point out that I loved the Jungle Book remake he did. Was not a huge fan of the Lion King one, but it made them over $1 billion, and he set out exactly what he said he was going to do, which was a photoreal version of the Lion King. And that's what it was. And I thought Mufasa was a bit better from Barry Jenkins, but still made him a lot of money.
I mean, he delivers on his goals. He said, "This is what I'm doing, on board or not," and I think he has the power, right? I think he has.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many projects have been thrown his way that he's denied, right? Because he has final say here. He's probably one of the only few people at Disney that does. Did he approach them with it, or did they approach him? I think is my intrigue.
That's a good question. And you know what? I love this for Jon Favreau. You know why? You know what he's slowly become over at Disney? Old reliable. Jon Favreau has become old reliable. You need something that you can't take a risk on? Give it to Jon. He'll take care of it. He'll be old reliable. He'll get us at least something slightly good, if not great.
Yeah.
He's
not gonna turn in a bad result. Maybe Mandalorian season 3.
Maybe Lion King remake, but
maybe the Lion. No, but I mean, if you look at the Lion King remake, right? He said, "I'm gonna make a photorealistic Lion King." He did that. I don't think he had any other objective other than, can I do this? Mandalorian season 3. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and he's also not alone on Mandalorian season 3, so there is that. Although there is Cowboys versus Aliens, which I haven't seen. I know there are starch defenders who love that film. I want to love it because it's called Cowboys versus Aliens. However, I've never seen it, and I've heard lukewarm things, and it's prevented me from watching it. But have you seen Cowboys versus Aliens?
No, but I've seen 4 Christmases that he acts in, and that's great.
Listen, I'm cutting to a close-up. If we're talking about if we're talking about Jon Favreau acting performances, it does not get better than The Replacements. The Replacements is one of the most underrated comedies of all time. The football movie. He plays this crazy SWAT team tackle who just tries to hit the shit out of people the whole movie. He's so funny in it. I love The Replacements. He's great in it. But, guys, what do you think of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit finally getting a new thing with Disney from Jon Favreau? Let us know in the comments as we move on.